Hello and welcome to another video from Keto A Go Go. Firstly, my apologies for not having posted anything for what is exactly 2 weeks today. It's been a very busy time for me. Made itself sound really important. I've been planning my wife's 40th birthday party for the past few months, and had to keep it all secret from her because she insisted that I didn't make a fuss over her 40th birthday, but you only turn 40 once. So in the end, she had people come from all over the country to be with her on her birthday. So it took a great deal of planning and preparation and secrecy for it all to come off without her realising. She thought we were going for a meal at her favourite restaurant, but when we got there, the restaurant was already filled with all her family and friends. So I earned some brownie points. It was a great evening, but it was not keto and it was not Exante friendly. The other thing we've been doing is we've done a load of work in our garden, which we'll do over the winter in preparation for summer. We've dug out an extension to our patio, shipped in a couple of tons of sand, laid a load of slabs on top of that, then cut, painted and assembled hundreds of pieces of reclaimed pallet wood to form 5 giant raised beds. I enjoy gardening, but all that bending and kneeling down makes it rather less enjoyable these days. Plus in Somerset, the slugs are the size of bananas. They're horrible things. There's still a lot of work to do, including an outside kitchen and a barbecue area and a beach at the bottom of the garden. I'll keep you posted. But all that work each day that we did meant that we literally crawled back into the house at the end of the day, cold, cream crackered and hungry, and a takeaway was necessary or strike action may have taken place. The result of this is that for the past 2 weeks I've hardly been dieting at all. But I'm not concerned. I knew it was going to happen. I've been planning it for 3 months, and so it's no biggie. I've put on a grand total of 0.0 kilos over the course of the fortnight, and being as last night we bid a fond farewell to carefree scoffing by going to a carvery and breaking the restaurant record for the most conical plate of food ever to make it back to the table, this morning's weigh-in was no surprise. This might, however, be an appropriate time to rediscover the benefits of intermittent fasting while 4 pounds of roast potatoes trudge their way through my system. And so, as of today, the diet is back on in earnest. I have enjoyed cinnamon porridge for my breakfast. I still have close to 100 Exante products, and so I'll be using them up over the next couple of weeks. I was amazed how many I still have. After that though, it's going to be a switch back over to keto. Now, since coming off the keto diet, I've been watching with interest a couple of Facebook groups where people that begin with a keto diet post photos of their meals to see if they're doing it right. Appeal to the altruistic elements of their fellow dieters. However, the fashion, or so it seems, is to pick fault with those meals and then criticise the dieter for not being keto enough. And I think that's fairly typical of the internet though. In this day and age, it always does attract the more aggressive strains of sociopath who like to criticise others in order to feel better about their own lives perhaps. Anyway, I just wanted to get that off my chest. It's probably best to stay away from such groups and stick with Keto A Go Go, because I'm not going to judge you. I'm on a diet. It's a diet though. It's not a new religion. Some of us tend to freak out if we're not 100% on the diet. I wonder whether that's partly because we have such a poor relationship with food and eating, and that it's maybe a reaction to not being 100% in control. Who knows? I think we all need to chill out just a little bit on that. Some of these keto evangelists will jump all over you if you confess to having eaten a roast potato. You'll be belittled. You'll be banished to the non-keto wilderness. I think some of them need to chill out just a little bit on that. Devotees of the science behind keto will know their carb count down to the last gram. But really, whether it's 5-2, whether it's Atkins, whether it's Exante, whether it's keto that floats your boat, what you're really doing is reducing your caloric intake below that which your body needs each day, your base metabolic rate. And so a calorie deficit will mean that your body will need to find energy from another source, and that source, of course, will be your stored fat. Now, despite our best efforts to sabotage it with pseudoscience and flim-flammery, our bodies have outstanding abilities, and they will find a way to access that energy. But we can help to eliminate the spanner in the works that would prevent that, and the spanner in the works is insulin. Many of us are diabetic. Almost all of us are insulin resistant to one degree or another. If you don't believe me, get your insulin levels tested. Consequently, we overproduce insulin, and within its core functions of controlling blood sugar, it was the insulin that put the spare energy into the fat cells, and it's insulin that prevents the opening up of those fat cells. So, if we can keep this guard dog, if we can keep insulin in its kennel, so insulin production is stimulated by the intake of sugars, carbohydrates. And so the science is that by reducing the proportion of our calories that are derived from carbohydrates, we should also reduce the amount of insulin that's produced. And that's almost right. Not completely right. Because a large intake of protein will also spike your blood sugar and stimulate insulin and cause the same problems. So we should try to keep protein intake fairly low as well. And I think that's where I went wrong with my first attempt at the ketogenic diet. Because I was eating dirty great sirloin steaks or pork chops or piles of bacon, and the maths simply didn't add up. Because even if you ignore which of the nutrient families it belonged to, whether protein, fat or carb, the sheer volume of calories was probably taking me above or near to my BMR. And consequently, the weight loss was not as spectacular as I'd been led to hope for. And so, without wanting to go down the Spanish Inquisition path of counting every gram of my meals, I think I need to plan a little bit more when it comes to deciding what I'm going to eat. On one hand, I'm suggesting that we all chill out and stop being so bloody judgmental and sweaty over the small things. And on the other hand, I'm suggesting that we need to take more care. As always, the answer does not lie at one end of the spectrum nor the other. No matter what the subject is, the answer is almost always found somewhere in the middle. As far as the ketogenic diet goes though, luckily people have already done the groundwork for you. Whether you're Apple or Android, you can quite easily download a carb manager or a keto counter app to your, I wrote it, to your phone, which will help you to keep track of your food intake and show you the areas in which you need to improve. So most of the apps also include a recipe library with ideas that will conform to the keto diet. So I think the answer is don't be an overconfident, blithering idiot like me. One of my worst traits is my supreme confidence that I've grasped a concept shortly before I proved to myself and the watching world that I wasn't quite so well informed as I thought. Another is my bull in a china shop nuclear-powered steamroller approach to such things. The outcome is usually me being brought down a peg or two, and that's what happened with keto. However, in a couple of weeks' time, I'll be a lot more prepared than I was during the first attempt, and hopefully a lot more successful. At least in watching me make a hash of it, when you move on to keto, you might not make the same mistakes. Whichever diet you're following, stick with it as much as you can. Forgive yourself for the odd transgression. We're on a journey, not a route march. It's only natural to take a break every now and then and to enjoy the scenery. And as long as we're still travelling in the right direction, it's us that decides our destination and arrival time. I'm aiming to break through the 130 kilogram mark by Christmas, but it might be New Year. Might be halfway through January. See, when it happens is not the important part. That it happens is what's important. We seem to want to punish ourselves somehow to be overly strict. You know, if only I hadn't eaten that chip, if only I'd resisted licking my fingers, or if I hadn't inhaled so deeply when I passed a cake shop. Calm down. We're all doing fine. We're all losing weight. It might be life or death that we lose weight, but in putting ourselves under so much pressure and stress, we aren't doing ourselves any good. We're not doing ourselves any favours. It isn't a race. Slow, steady, thoughtful, determined weight loss is what will prevent us from backsliding and regaining what we lost through all this hard work and diligence. By taking it slowly, it becomes more habit forming. We reinforce our decisions not to binge, not to overindulge, and to exercise a little self-restraint. To find an analogy, think about walking around the block. When you first begin, it's a bit of an ordeal. But after a while, you get used to it and you barely think about it. So learning or relearning our relationship with food is a very similar experience. At first it seems alien and requires a lot of effort and willpower, but the longer we do it, the more natural it becomes and the easier it is. And so a long weight loss journey, taking the time to learn new habits and allowing the time needed for them to become our default status, is preferable to losing all our weight in 2 months and then falling off the cliff, unprepared for the future and liable to do all those bad things again. Something to think about. Thanks for listening. Chat soon.